Hello and welcome back everyone to our first panel discussion during Automation Days 2024. I'm super excited to start our first panel discussion for today, and for this first panel discussion I've invited a panel of industry experts that can share their knowledge and thoughts around the way in which RPA and intelligent automation are changing the way businesses operate. Let me first start with giving a brief introduction of our panelists. First and foremost, I would like to welcome Rainier Malol-Coates, who's the president at CX Genies. Rainier, welcome, and can you give us a brief introduction of yourself?
Thank you, Jen. I'm Rainier. I've been working with AI for the past 8 years now focusing on the customer experience industry. I've been working with governments, with big enterprises, mid-level ones, helping them automate and also impact on their day-to-day life. So thank you.
Absolutely, it's a great pleasure. I think it's your first time at Automation Days Asia, so I'm super excited to have you with us this year.
Thank you.
Then let's go to Himanshu.
Cool. Hi, thank you, Jen. So hi, everybody. My name is Himanshu Joshi. And it's been around 7 years. I'm using RPA and building automations using RPA. Worked on different verticals, includes healthcare, manufacturing, BFSI, and etc. And working on field building automation for our customers. So
sounds very, very interesting. So we're obviously going to talk a lot around use cases and the actual ways in which automations make a difference. I'm very, very grateful to have you on the panel with me today as well. And then last but not least, I have Ambarish Brandt, who is the head of professional services at Automation Anywhere. Welcome, Ambarish, as well.
Thank you, Jen, and good morning and good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here at this panel discussion, and it's first for me as well on this Automation Day. Just a background, I'm currently associated with Automation Anywhere, past 7 years heading professional services, where we work with a lot of customers across varied industries to help them automate the impossible.
Automate the impossible. Wow, that's a great one. Great way of putting it. That's definitely something that we're gonna want to pick your brain on a little bit more in detail. And last but not least, let me give a brief introduction of myself for everyone who's just joining. My name is Jan-Willem Middelburg. I'm the managing director of Cybiant, who's hosting this conference today, and the author of the Service Automation Framework books, which provides an implementation approach for organizations that want to transform with automation. So with that, I think we're going to get started on our first question. But before I do that, I would like to invite everyone who's listening to us live that if you have any questions for our esteemed panelists, then please use the Q&A or the chat. Then I will try to moderate these questions as we will go along. I'll focus on the attendee questions a little bit later during the break session. But by all means, if you would like to engage, feel free to do so at any time. Now, we're going to get started with the key question that is basically hanging over the RPA and automation market in the last year, and that is obviously AI. We've been hearing from a lot of speakers this morning terms like intelligent automation, predictive automation, AI-driven automation. So I think it's fair to say that AI has a very profound impact on the way that the automation domain is developing. And also, just from my personal experience, I've been hosting this conference for the last 4 years. 4 years ago, AI was nowhere close. And in the last 2 years, it has completely shifted the game. So I would like to start with Ambarish. For this, you just mentioned automating the impossible. How do you see AI shifting the way that organizations operate, and what kind of impact does it have on the automation domain?
If I was sitting last year in this, I would have not used that statement. But last 12 to 18 months, the whole AI, generative AI, has transformed what we call from RPA to intelligent automation. Now we are calling APA, which is agentic process automation, just because we can now automate about 80 to 90% of the processes, while with RPA and AI we just did 20-40% of the process automation, more like a task-based or a rule-based automation. Now, with AI coming in, we look at unstructured data, which we can automate, decision-making, right, with the help of AI, using or interacting with the customer using natural language processing, right, machine learning, and goes beyond. And hence, today we are seeing a lot of enterprise customers are able to automate their processes across functions, across divisions, and which is resulting in employee productivity, which is helping in the customer experience, which is impacting profits, and so on and so forth. So it's exciting to be part of this process and be in this industry.
Absolutely, and I fully share that. It's an absolutely exciting field to be in the last, especially in the last year. So you can see how much changes in just 1 year's time. Let's move to Rainier. You are obviously on the execution side. So how have you seen this with customers over the last year?
So let me just start by saying that 10, 12 years ago, when I started working in tech field, big data was the craze. And you would see all of these advertisements, all of these talks, all these events talking about big data. And I would say 2 years ago, even this year, you still have companies that now have a lot of data, but don't know what to do with it, or don't have the capabilities to actually use the data in a way that actually gives them value. So I think this is one of the many ways in which AI is affecting RPA, in which we will now be able to create processes that actually take data in, all of the data that is already been there, and moving beyond a dashboard, because even though dashboards are extremely useful, they also require still people to actually, look at the dashboard, make a decision, filter, and play with it. Now, I think we're gonna have even much more value and complex processes that are able to take the data, whether it be on a structure or not, and actually provide us with recommendations, provide with plans, with things that actually move closer to making that final decision. So I think that's highly valuable, highly powerful, and I cannot wait to see a world where we see corporations of all sizes, not only big ones, but even small ones, to actually make use of AI in this manner, make use of RPA in this manner. And honestly, I agree, it's very exciting.
Absolutely, and I think we're still at that very, very early stage of kind of less cycle what organizations are going through. So I'm quite sure that we're going to see a lot more in that area as well. Then let's move to Himanshu for a second. So what's your take on the way in which AI and the new technologies are reshaping RPA?
Sure. So my view is slightly different here, because what I think AI is always synonymous to RPA, right? I think even if you go back to pre-COVID era, even at that time, there are a few customers who are using AI within their enterprise, right, to get better ROIs and get more benefit out of their RPA automation. But with the recent emergence of generative AI, the RPA actually boomed, right? Now, as Amrish mentioned, right, before 2 years back, we are only performing manual automation where we have repetitive tasks and so on. But nowadays, with the help of AI, you can automate virtually any process, right? Any process, any application, and any system. No matter what kind of documents you are processing, no matter what kind of screens, what kind of inputs, database, and so on, right? Yeah. So that helps a lot. And how I think AI in RPA is that AI can help RPA throughout the implementation of automation lifecycle, like not only RPA, but any automation, starting from discovering the automation opportunities, right? You can use RPA nowadays, and you can use AI. You can basically analyze your business applications like SAPs, your Salesforce, your Oracles, or your business processes like your P2P processes, your R2A process and so on. And you can analyze these processes with the help of AI, and you can basically quickly understand how these processes looks like, what kind of exceptions, and what are the best suited for automation from these applications, right? That can be easily identified using AI.
Yeah. And I think you're touching upon a very good point. Earlier this morning, we had a bit of a discussion in one of the sessions that was about, because of this new technology, what are the traditional RPA providers? Do they now basically need to rebrand to intelligent automation or AI-driven automation? So do we see the term RPA phasing out and AI-driven automation coming in? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And then Ambarish, I'm going to come to you since you're also with one of the top vendors to see how AI is looking at that area as well. But let's say with Himanshu first.
I think it is already started. Like if you go back 2-3 years back, we had intelligent automation, right? And it is just evolving now. And how I see future, I see agentic automation as a future of AI within RPA, right?
Yeah.
Because it's been quite some time we have intelligent automation in the market, and we almost automated most of the processes which includes AI. Right now, it needs to be evolved, and we are moving towards the agentic automation space now.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for that insight. Let's go to Ambarish.
Yeah. So the two, first, I would just want to highlight why I'm not saying the RPA is going, because, there's a basic which will be there for ages, right? There will be new processes, there will be tasks which will require automation, right? Yeah. Now, with bringing in AI, LLM models, generative AI, you name whatever, right? And that's what we have seen when there was a cloud movement, right? Yeah. Now, this is a Gen AI movement, and they're all startups, all companies are calling AI organizations, right? And hence, you name it, they are calling AI company, right, today. Why is so important now from an RPA perspective in this Gen AI transformation is what you see the co-pilots of the world. You do a text in, you get a text out. Now, it just will help you to increase your productivity. But what happens when there are actions to be taken, right? Now, these agentic process automations or RPA of the world will take those actions, right? So, and hence you're calling that 80-90% of the automation can be done through, these platforms and companies to help really see that value, and that's where we stand, and that's where we are also calling an agentic process automation company now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a very good point that you're bringing up, because I'm obviously more on kind of like the partner side, implementation side. And what we've been experiencing in the last 2 to 3 years is that there's a lot of hype, obviously, around the AI boom. And just as you just mentioned with cloud, we've seen this previously. But if we look at customers across the spectrum, and my job is mostly, obviously, Southeast Asia, one of the most common things that we still see is that a lot of organizations are still at a very low level in terms of maturity in RPA. So we're just talking about very simplistic email automation, Excel automation, basic stuff in all of our opinion. And that brings me to the next question. How can we make companies ready for that? That they are now all screaming, we want AI, whereas the fundamentals, the basics, is not in place at all. So maybe to continue with you, Ambarish, I'd like to pick your brains on this, and then I'll move to Rainier. Ambarish, can you still hear us? I think we're having a small connectivity issue with Ambarish at the moment. So I'm going to move to Rainier real quick.
Sure. I'd be happy to answer. And this is a great question and something that I find when I go to different clients. The story behind it is that AI is the big buzzword, right? And everyone wants some piece of AI now. I had clients tell me, listen, my boss, the CEO of the company, has tasked me to build something with AI for the company. But what I always tell them is that it is not the right way to do it. You first look at the problem and then see if the tech, if AI at that point is actually something that actually will help you. So let's not, get ahead of ourselves. And if there's really a need to innovate, which of course there is, or to innovate with AI, I would always start with a strategy first. So it would be like a strategy first approach. That means you identify issues or problems that the company has. It could be something very simple, it could be something very complex, but then you do that by talking with the different internal customers of the company, like the employees, the VPs, the CEO, the CFO, and actually listen. And through that conversations, through that issue identification, then you come up with goals of things that you can accomplish using RPA or using AI or using any other type of tech. But in summary, I think the most important thing that we can do as technologists or as people that work with tech, RPA, AI, anything, is to understand that tech, AI, RPA is a means to an end and not an end in itself. So companies should learn that in order to implement them, you first must have a real reason to do so. Of course, you can say, I want to maximize profits or I want to get more clients, but you already have processes that do that. So let's revise those processes and see what can be done in order for you to be more scalable or be more efficient or be more productive.
Perfect. Absolutely. And I fully agree with that. Let's move to Himanshu. Basically, same question for you as well. How do you deal with that maturity gap? Everyone's screaming, I want AI, whereas very basic process automation is not in place yet.
So the answer for this is pretty straightforward. Enablement, that's it, right? You should enable your organization, enable your RPA team to know how to do AI in RPA, right? Because if you don't do it right now, you might lag behind, right? Because AI is evolving a lot. And even the AI capabilities are now added in the core automations as well, right? Like initially, let's say if you want to build a RPA automation, you might be spending, let's say, 2 weeks or 3 weeks for a low-hanging fruit to build the automation route. But with AI now, especially with generative AI, right? Even that automation can be generated using that, right? So I think enablement is the only thing which the org can follow to make sure that their team is up to date. They know what is new. They know what we have in the AI and the automation space, right? So.
Thank you so much, Himanshu. That's a very good answer. And you're basically building a perfect bridge to my next question, which is going to be around skills. Because you mentioned you need to prepare the organization for this. So let's move back to Ambarish. I hope you can hear us again.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you as well perfectly. How do you prepare organizations for this? And let me give you a little bit of context around the question. A lot of people know how to draw a basic workflow, a business process. They know what to do. But with AI, it becomes different because it's a black box. And most people cannot explain how it works. So it's very difficult for them to put that into a workflow that can be automated. How do you educate organizations? How do you make them familiar with these new technologies?
Right. So again, going to the basics, right? Nothing is rocket science here. It's just that how you tweak your operating model, meaning from how you intake your processes, what kind of, where you were looking at task, rule-based, how you now look at from a Gen AI perspective, what processes can be automated, how the intake process can happen. And now, rather than the complexity that you used to look from an RPA perspective, now you look more towards ROI perspective, right? Mm-hmm. rather than a complexity, right? And then how you qualify your opportunities and then build upon it, right? That's one part of it, that you educate from an intake process perspective. The second is what kind of skills that you would require to automate. Now, we are in Gen AI era of the world, and we are saying there is a low code, no code. But of course, there are certain skill sets that you will require, bare minimum, like soft prompt engineering and so on and so forth. That's one. The third aspect is when organizations, when I talk about large enterprises to adopt Gen AI, is there are certain other aspects from a compliance perspective, from a security perspective, how we enable these organizations from a CIO's perspective, and help them, incubate Gen AI as a technology, right? And ensure those initial hurdles are taken out by way of, how which LLM to adopt, which hyperscalers to go with, which platforms to use, and then the rest of the things will fall in place, right? Because you could initially take few of those processes which are already automated and enhanced by adopting Gen AI, then get on to new processes.
Yeah. So one side of that upskilling is obviously making your customers familiar around that, but I assume that also your internal teams need to get into that domain as well.
Right.
And to follow up a little bit on that, in our company, for instance, we've been trying to incentivize everyone to kind of take AI courses to get themselves upskilled. You're obviously working for a large company. How do you drive people who have their day-to-day jobs and the business as usual going on to make that step to move just from a more pure RPA, a rule-based automation perspective to this new world that's coming? Question still for Ambarish, and then I'm going to move to Rainier.
Right. See, I would say one thing, Jen, is there's a continuous learning, right? There were a few years back, there was RPA, it was new. We have to learn. Then, intelligent automation came in, then the cloud came in, then Gen AI, and tomorrow, whatnot, right? So, you have to, keep it with that pace and, upskill yourself, your team to be, be there in the industry, right? That's one. Now, organizations like us are helping our client install base and the COE team members, by providing a lot of different courses to help them, in this learning phase to get adopt to this technology, and then, start, automating process on these latest technologies with new product features and so on and so forth. So it is a continuous learning. There are organizations and yourself. These are the two, things that you have to learn and adopt to these technologies.
Yeah. So in that sense, it's actually not something new. It's something that is just continuous going. Absolutely. Rainier, you advise a lot of customers around how to do this. How do you deal with the educational aspect?
So one thing that we must recognize is that people don't usually always understand the whole powerful set of things that they can do with RPA, with automation, with AI. They are owners of their processes, but they sometimes do not see beyond their own processes and what is wrong, what is bad, or what could be simply automated. I have advised companies to actually do some kind of internal competition or internal program or internal project in which they promote and they incentivize the use of AI or RPAs in their own processes. So companies would actually open up, let's say, a 3-month period in which they will provide their employees with classes, with speakers, and would actually, do a small competition, like the teams or the person that can actually develop or think of the idea that would automated processes would win a small prize or like a 1 day off, something like that.
Yeah.
So there are, of course, many different ways. But on a personal note, the results I've seen for none of these programs and for none of these initiatives that these companies can have is that actually people begin to understand what is RPA, what is AI, the differences between each other, and they are open now to a world of possibilities that they couldn't see before. So I had this case of a financial company in which they had to do consolidation every day, and it was very complex. And they had been doing like that for the past 10 years. So when the program was actually initiated, the one in which they would learn about AI and automation and whatnot, this was one of the biggest and most impactful ideas that they had. Like, I could automate the most painful part of my job and actually focus on what matters, which is not this tedious way of working. Which of course opened them up for even new things to do and newer things to do in the department. So I just want to highlight that even though for us here it's very common to talk about RPA, to talk about AI, maybe it's not so common or not so easy to digest to other people, and we must always strive to simplify things as much as we can and have these people actually be the ones that champion the solutions, because they are, at the end of the day, they're the ones that are being more impacted by it and the ones that actually can push for the implementation of these projects as well.
Absolutely. You're actually bringing up a good point around the fact that that's a little bit less understandable. Last knowledge question. This one is for Himanshu. This morning we had a presenter that also basically said, the world of big data, AI, machine learning is converging with the world of automation. And maybe the next generation of automation developers are actually data scientists, which come to bring their knowledge and their skills to the automation domain. Do you share that assessment? And is there going to be a need for, I would say, data science skills in the RPA domain?
Okay, so it's a slightly difficult question because RPA started as a low-code, no-code automation provider, right? You don't have to write any script, you don't have to build anything, and I believe it will gonna be like that for a few more years, right? Because usually RPA is only for those personas who want to automate their day-to-day tasks, right? Automate their processes and so on. And with the emergence of agent in the RPA space, you don't even have to drag and drop and build the automation, right? You can use generative AI, you can describe what exactly you want to do, and agent can do it for you. There might be need for some data science developers in a specific complex automation where you might want to write some prompts, you want to use specific interfaces. Then there it could be useful, but I believe in most cases, RPA will stay a low-code, no-code tool where you can just drag and drop and you can use generative AI and you can build your automation.
Interesting, very interesting. We'll see how that plans out, because that's one of the areas that I've seen a lot of people struggle with in the last few months. I'm going to shift gears a little bit, and one of the next major topics that we're going to address is the whole domain of ethics, because you cannot these days say AI without having that discussion, and we're going to see some use cases of that as well. Before I move there, I just would like to encourage everyone who's listening live and that have questions for our panelists to put them into the chat or into the Q&A. I've already seen some questions come in, but I will start moderating them in around 5 to 10 minutes from now. So if you would like to have the opportunity to interact with our panelists, by all means, put in some questions, because we will move to those next. Let's start with Rainier for the ethics discussion. I'm going to set the context a little bit. This morning, we saw a use case of a robot that went to for a manufacturer. And the robot, what they did is it moved every day past the websites from competitors, scraped the pricing information from those websites, and then updates with a robot their own pricing based on what the competitors are pricing out there. And that obviously brings an ethical discussion. Is that allowed? Is it not allowed? Should that information be protected? It was what we refer to as a dynamic pricing use case. But with RPA tools, as we all now know, this is possible. We can do screen scraping. We can get a lot of information that is publicly available. So my main question is, how should organizations deal with the ethical side that AI is bringing to these companies? Because in many cases, it's not regulated, or at least not yet. So how do you deal with that from an organizational perspective?
It's a very important question to ask. I definitely don't know the full answer. I can give my opinion on it.
Yeah.
I would say, do as you will to others, and don't try to be like, this player that will just, for the sake of getting some type of advantage, just play, I wouldn't say against the rules. Honestly, I have had to create processes that scrape from sites before. And scraping is a whole other issue that, it has been regulated, has been documented, and has been talked a lot. I fear issues of AI and automation, which, put the lives or identities of people in danger. So, for example, in my work with the healthcare data, I've seen cases of HIV and things like that could compromise someone's identity or could compromise someone's, state of being or well-being. So in those cases, I would try to provide as many safeguards as possible. Only provide to the RPA processes or to the AI processes the data that it needs, not all of the data that is available, and put as many logs as you can. So here comes the term again of data governance. I think compliance things will also change in the upcoming future to take a look into this and to actually also, have more limitations on what can be done or what cannot be done in terms of, complying with regulatory aspects. I think there's also a discussion about ethics on, automating different processes and automating jobs in a way that a person would not need to be hired in order to do it, because an AI can do it. But that's another set of discussions as well. And so I would say that we must be careful, and of course, we're going to be players that will take advantage of not having a regulation yet. But even those players that regulate should actually act faster and use AI to actually move faster. I'm sorry, it's not the most concrete answer. It's just it's a very complex topic that I think would be just another panel discussion about it.
No, absolutely, and it's I'm asking the difficult questions on purpose because nobody has figured this out. Let's move to Ambarish for a second. You're obviously advising some of the larger companies in the world, which all will have strict guidelines and regulations around this. So what's your take around this, and what could organizations actually do practically to make sure that this doesn't become an issue?
See, ethics in AI is a crucial topic, and the first thing is the accountability. As you said, there is no framework or accountability. So the organizations, the platform companies, the whole structure has to take that accountability and determining who is responsible if there is something wrong, right? There has to be certain clear guidelines, what you draft from an enterprise perspective. Again, we advise like what are those guidelines, and creating that framework where necessary to ensure the ethical practice are in place whenever any actions or process are automated or data exchange is happening, right? So you work under certain framework to automate these processes, which is ethical.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving to Himanshu for your thoughts on this, and to kind of deepen the question a little bit in order to not get the same answer, is What do you think that the role of government should be in this? Should governments step up in terms of regulations of this area, or do you think this is really an enterprise responsibility?
See, as of now, it's more toward enterprise, right? Whoever providing the capability to you.
Yeah.
Ideally, they should take care of this by providing governance, by policies, and some kind of security layer, right?
Yeah.
And yes, government should also take an action in it because it should be regulated in the end, right?
Yeah.
Like we have other domain, other industries. So
yeah, it's very, very, very difficult. A few weeks ago, I was at an IBM panel, and they also said, we have now implemented guidelines that if we notice that customers are doing unethical work or not following AI guidelines, then we reserve the right to kind of drop them of using our technology in order to facilitate that. And obviously, there's a trade-off there between customers and money, and that's a very complicated matter. But ultimately, do you think it's moving in that direction?
I guess yes. There are a few governments who are making these decisions, especially in Europe, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we are moving on to that direction. But the thing with this is it should be standard, right? Because some government might have their own set of governance and policies with AI, or some might have something different, right? So it should be standardized. And yes, we are moving to that direction as well. So some started it, and eventually we will move to that direction.
Very, very interesting. So I think that this is a domain that we all haven't figured out completely yet, but is something that we will definitely need to focus on in the next 2 years. With that, I'm going to move to open up to the live attendees for their questions. I've already seen quite some questions coming in for the panel. So let me moderate a little bit. One of the first ones which took out, because it's a very directed question, is a question for Himanshu. How far do you think RPA, and I assume it's a typo, I assume it's AI, can reach? So would you like to share your thoughts on that?
See, what I believe is that the future is automation and AI, right? Because see, the way we are working today, we might not be working like this in next 10 years, in next 20 years, right? And the space is keep evolving, right? We have generative AI, I think 2-3 years back, which changed the whole space. Now we have new companies, we have new capabilities available, right, which can be used in the AI space. And I think 2-3 years back, we can't think that we can automate these things as well, right? Now the generative AI is also evolving, and we have agentic automation, we have agentic AI, we have agentic orchestration. So this is coming into the picture now, where we can basically describe what kind of automation you want to do, and automation can do it for you, right? But how I think it will evolve in future is that you can just think that you want to do this on your screen, and that screen can perform that automation for you. So that
would be very, very nice. I'm gonna hope to that I live to see that day.
Yeah. So you don't just have to type, and you can just
think about it. Yeah,
can do it for you.
Very good. So let's move to the next question, which is for Louise, and maybe I would like Ambarish to answer this. The question is, with the rise of low-code RPA and AI tools, many non-technical people are taking on roles in both RPA and AI projects. Based on your experience, do you think a non-technical background is enough to succeed in these fields, or are there any other key skills that are more important?
Right. See, as long as you have a zeal to learn, you can learn anything, whether you come from a technical background or a non-technical background. That's my belief, right? And I have seen many great developers who have come from a non-technical background. So, so it's not about low code, no code, or a hands-on development required. But from RPA and AI, yes, it's become more easier for you to gain those skill sets. and get into an RPA and AI space and part of the implementation teams or RPA COE teams, right? I would say, learn. There are multiple skills, RPA platforms. You have Python, for example. You have to have understanding on large language models. You have to have understanding about RAG and so on and so forth. So, just see, pick 3 or 4 skills from a RPA and intelligent automation perspective, and develop those skills. Nowadays, it's so fast to learn. And in few days, I would say, not months, in few weeks, you will be able to acquire these skills and be able to build these projects.
Thank you so much. I think that's a very insightful answer. Anyone, if you have the zeal for it, you can learn anything. I really like that quote. I might borrow that from you. Last panel question is going to be for Rainier. Let's use this one from Alexander. What is the most effective way of measuring the impact of AI on customer experience? And I think that that's a very interesting question around how do you measure effectiveness?
That's a great question, and it can be answered in many ways. We could take a look at the customer perspective and use tools that we already have, like the CSAT, customer satisfaction indicator, to actually see if it improved or deteriorated after some type of AI implementation. You can also take a look at the internal data, such as investments. So, for example, what's happening now is that companies are implementing a first layer of customer service support through an AI chatbot, and this allows them to reduce the amount of tickets that actually have to go to a human service account executive. So it depends on really what you have implemented. There could also be ways in which you use AI or RPAs to improve customer experience. So, for example, let's say you are now analyzing all of the conversations, not only to respond to them, but to also to find out what is wrong with a service or with a product of the company. So one of the things that I believe was mentioned at the beginning of the panel is that we can now actually use the structured data in a much easier and faster way. So comments, reviews, chats, calls, all of these types of unstructured data can actually be used now to extract information about what is going on with the user, with the customer, what they like, what they do not like, and actually use that transform data into, use it in a way that actually gives you value as a company. And say, oh, most of my customers are complaining about X and Y, and this analysis comes from calls and from reviews and from chats, which before it was almost impossible to do. I think one of the biggest promises of AI is that capability of actually turning something that used to be pretty complex, very unstructured, into something that is highly structured and that can actually give you recommendations based on even what your users are saying.
Thank you so much. That's very, very insightful, and I fully agree with those answers. I also see a lot of thumbs going up, so I think the person that asked the question is completely happy. Unfortunately, because of time, we slowly need to move towards an end, because we have next speakers lined up already in a little less than 15 minutes again. I always like to end the panel with asking every speaker to kind of give one piece of advice around what are the steps that people could practically take to get started with RPA and intelligent enterprise automation in their organization. So for some closing remarks, I'll do Ambarish first, and then Himanshu, and I'll end with Rainier. What are your parting words of wisdom for everyone who's listening live to us today? Ambarish, floor is yours.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Jane and the team. Now, on advice, I would say, look at low-hanging processes if you would like to automate. Immaterial of it's a RPA, intelligent automation, or a Gen AI, right? What helps you? What you think that can be automated, which can help you improvise your work, help you increase your productivity. Look at those things and then look for those. Today's era is required for you to do 2x kind of work, and now there are tools, technologies which can help you. So look out for those things that can easily be automatable, which can reduce your burden, and you can focus more on what's more important for yourself and for the organization.
Thank you so much, Ambarish. That's been really insightful.
Thank you.
Then Himanshu, you're up next.
Yeah, I also agree with Ambarish a lot. You should look for the low-hanging fruit and should automate them first. See what can help you with your day-to-day tasks. Right. Apart from that, I have one more suggestion. I think it's mainly for developers or some technical personas. See, this AI space is quite new in RPA, right? And there are a lot of things which you can do, use cases, in terms of building things and so on, right? So always have a look in the latest trend, in the latest capabilities, the latest models, whatever we have available, and try to use them, try to accommodate them within your automation solution as well. So I think.
Thank you so much, Himanshu. That's very, very good. Then final words are for Rainier.
Thank you, Jen, and thank you, everyone. I think it's important for companies to understand that AI, RPA, software development, all of these are just means to an end. And for these companies to actually success and to be more profitable, more productive, they should first look at the issues that they already have. So I would start by identifying that process that is troublesome, that is costing a lot, that maybe is time consuming, maybe is not really being done in the correct way, or it has had many different iterations in the past, and try to organize all of these and say, okay, this process I think is something that I could hire a firm to actually automate it, let it be with RPA, with AI, or with any other type of tool. I think it's important that we understand that the problems in itself, the companies already have them. If the problem is not very well defined, it doesn't matter if it's RPA, if it's Gen AI, or anything. If it's not well defined, it will not have the success that we would want it to have. So yeah, I will start with the problem first, and then with the tech.
Thank you so much. Problem first, and then the tech. I think that's some great words to end our panel discussion with. If everyone can hang on with me before we say goodbye to our panelists, I just have one more thing to do in terms of the logistics. So everyone note that as part of our conference, there are going to be some prizes that are going to be distributed, and we will have 5 questions during all of the general sessions. So I'm going to launch a very quick poll right now, and the question is, how many hours per week are saved by employees that are using generative AI daily? And the options that you can choose from are 1.2 hours, 3.6 hours, 4.7 hours, or 6.3 hours. I'm going to start the poll right now. Take a moment to fit that in. Good. I see that people are voting frantically. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. Good, and I'm going to close the poll right now. We have a bit of a split idea. 25% says 3.6 hours, 42% says 4.7, and 33% says 6.3. The right answer is actually 6.3 based on the recent research. But again, don't worry if you have this correct. There's still 3 more opportunities to answer all questions correct in the upcoming polls. And with that, before I move to our next section with our next set of speakers, I would like to thank our esteemed panelists for sharing the time, sharing your wisdom, sharing the very insightful. I personally had a lot of fun hosting this panel. I think we really had some industry experts here in the room. So I would like to ask everyone to put your hands together, or at least the virtual hands, for Himanshu, Rainier, and Ambarish for a very, very insightful session. Thank you so much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good. And then for everyone who's listening live, obviously the conference is only just getting started. So in 7 minutes, we have our 2 next speakers ready. In track 1, which is going to be my track, we have Päivi Kangsamaki, if I'm pronouncing it correct, who is the Chief Executive Officer at RiskRate, and she's going to be giving a session around how do you analyze financial reporting with a click. And in track number 2, we have once again a workshop. Again, the workshops are an hour and a half in duration, so a little bit more hands-on and practical. And in this workshop, we're going to be talking about AI and automation, practical applications for business processes. So if you're interested in the workshop, you can switch to track number 2. And if you would like to have the regular presentation sessions, then stay in track number 1 with me. We're going to take a short 5-minute break, and I will see all of you back on the hour at 2 o'clock here in Malaysia and Singapore for our next upcoming sessions. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.